Units in TFT can upgrade all the way to 4 stars, but have you ever wondered how players get them? In this video I will explain every method available, including how to upgrade a tier 3 unit to 4 star all by yourself. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention that we are super close to reaching 100,000 subscribers. Honestly, I never would have thought this channel would get here so fast, and I'm super thankful for your support. It definitely keeps me motivated to continue making videos like these in the future as well. The topic for today is 4-star units, and there is a lot to cover. Let's begin by taking a look at when 4-star units made their first appearance in TFT. In set 4.0, Riot introduced the Moonlight trait consisting of Diana, Lissandra, Aphelios and Sylas. Running Moonlight would upgrade either 1 or 2 Moonlight units by 1 star level at the start of combat, and it was possible for 3-star units to upgrade to 4-star. While Diana and Lissandra comps definitely saw some play, nothing was as infamous as Moonlight Aphelios. While the trait was arguably a success, it took a long time until 4-star units became an evergreen mechanic. The most important change occurred in patch 14.18, a few weeks into set 12. Riot announced that tier 1 units can upgrade to 4-star if you somehow manage to collect 27 copies. Upgrading the same unit to 3-star 3 times is quite the hurdle to overcome, and initially this interaction was only intended for lower tier units. When the patch was released, I was curious to see if it was possible to upgrade a legendary unit to 4-star. I ended up creating a rather convoluted setup where I would collect all 3 tacticians items to generate an infinite amount of gold. Then I upgraded every single legendary to 3-star except for 1, and upgraded 3 tier 4 units to 3-star as well. I used the infinite gold to look for the major polymorph charm and forced the game into giving me a specific 3-star legendary. To make this work, I had to ensure there was only 1 viable copy in the champion pool, so major polymorph would create 8 additional copies. You simply sell a real copy after using the charm, and then you repeat the process. As it turns out, this didn't work, and in patch 14.18 it was not possible to 4-star your legendaries. This ended up getting fixed along the way, and nowadays you can find a lot of videos of content creators using the Pilfer augment combined with Morgana against the trenchcoat holder to steal multiple copies to eventually reach a 4-star legendary in a custom lobby. You can even find 4-star 6-cost units that make use of Mel 3-star to grant enough HP to prolong the game long enough for Pilfer to create enough copies. This used to work because TFT would only close itself after stage 20, but as far as I know, this has been patched and the maximum game time is much shorter now. This more or less concludes the short history lesson. Let's check out all the different tools you have available to find a 4-star unit yourself without having to rely on the Pilfer augment or custom lobbies. By far the easiest way is to use the augments worth the weight 1 and 2. They grant you an additional copy of a specific unit after every round. If the game goes on long enough, you will eventually receive a 4-star unit in the late game, as long as you didn't sell any of your copies. As an alternative, you can also use the strategy with the augment Welcome to the Playground. If the condition is met, you receive a copy of Powder, Violet or Vander. Once all of them are 3-starred, you will only receive a copy of Powder. Similar to Worth the Wait, it is technically possible to receive a 4-star Powder this way, but I wouldn't recommend trying this out. Something that works a lot better is to take the augment Greater Moonlight in stage 4.2. It upgrades one of your 1-cost units to 4-star at the start of every combat. This augment works best if you're only running a single 1-cost unit to ensure that your strongest carry will always receive the upgrade. Since I've been talking about augments, you might be wondering how useful is Pandora's Bench to reach 4-star units. It is surprisingly bad. The current champion pool for set 13 is 30, 25, 18, 10 and 9. Unfortunately, Pandora's Bench will respect the champion pool, and only tier 1 has enough units in the pool to potentially rule 3 3-star copies to upgrade a unit to 4-star. At the end of the day, this would require an insane amount of luck, and you'd have to be completely uncontested, which is simply not feasible. If you manage to 4-star a tier 1 unit with Pandora's Bench, then it actually is possible to reroll it into another 4-star unit, as long as there is an option with enough copies left in the pool. Outside of the augments, I suppose I should include the family Easter egg as well. If you place a family emblem on Vi, Jinx and Warwick, you can eventually upgrade your family members to 4-star, assuming your opponent doesn't forfeit on the spot. Finally, we have the Anomaly Ultimate Hero that upgrades a 3-star tier 1 unit into a 4-star after 4 rounds. But I think it's safe to say you know about that one. Outside of ranked, you can also use the double up mechanic to reach a 4-star unit faster, especially in combination with any of the methods I mentioned before. For example, if you send your partner a 3-star unit, that unit will remain as an orb on their board until they pick it up. By sending the 3-star unit and not picking it up, both players can continue to look for another 3-star copy and only pick up the orbs once they gathered enough copies for a 4-star unit. Unfortunately, the units in the orbs are taken out of the champion pool, but if you have an augment like Worth the Wait, then it is quite possible to reach a 4-star tier 1 unit in stage 3. If you feel extremely lucky, you can also try to play around Recombobulator to reach a 4-star tier 2 unit early into the game. While you're effectively limited to only tier 1 and tier 2 units in set 13, it is surprisingly doable to find a 4-star tier 3 unit in the set 4.5 revival. Here is how it works. First of all, the champion pool in the revival is 25, 25, 25, 10 and 9, and it is individual for each player. It doesn't matter if anyone is holding the units you're looking for, nobody can contest you. While there are less tier 1 units, we have a lot more tier 3 units to work with, and we can use this to our advantage. The first step is to play 3 fortune as fast as possible, preferably at the beginning of stage 2. You want to play a weak board to guarantee your loss streak until you have 8 losses with 3 fortune active. Now you want to push for level 7, look for a strong chosen like Darius and give him useful items. Run at least 3 slayers and upgrade as many units on your board as possible. This setup should be strong enough to beat most opponents and guarantee the cash out at exactly 8 losses. There are 4 possible outcomes, but we only care about the one with a 20% chance that grants us 9 small duplicators and 9 gold. If you receive the correct cash out, then the real fun begins, because you will have to push TFT to its absolute limit. First of all, you have to make sure that the unit you want to 4-star is currently not your chosen. Initially this sounds wrong, because why would you want to skip 3 copies, but there is a very good reason for this. You can still find any chosen even if you 3-starred the unit already. In short, we do want the chosen, but we want it at a later time after we upgraded our first unit to 3-star. Second, you want to collect 8 copies of the unit you desire and have the 9th copy locked in your shop. To reach a 4-star unit, you will have to use a tech called overrolling. In a normal game of TFT, once you 3-star a unit, you cannot find that unit in your shop anymore. However, you can wait for combat to start and split your copies between your board and your bench. During combat, the units on your board can't upgrade, which means you can roll for additional copies at least until the start of the next planning phase. When you begin your overroll, you should have 9 duplicators from the fortune cash out and 9 copies including the unit locked in your shop. This means you have to find 6 copies by overrolling and then get the 3 remaining copies from a late chosen. Unfortunately, it is incredibly unlikely to overroll 6 copies, so you will have to resort to a few additional tricks. You want to take any augment that grants you additional duplicators. You're mainly looking for team building and heroic grab bag, but if you want to be a bit crazy, you can also take Exalted Adventure. If you're aiming for Darius or Katarina 4-star, you can also run 6 fortune and hope for the 5% outcome to receive a large champion duplicator. You also want to take the unit you're aiming for in any carousel. Units taken from a set 4.5 carousel are not taken out of your own champion pool. This can be easily proven in this game, where I took a Swain from the carousel and I was able to find 10 Swains in total, something that's not supposed to be possible. Now there is one more tech I haven't mentioned yet that has no use cases in TFT, except for this scenario, the transition rule. You might have encountered this bug in the past already, but you probably never understood what was happening. Like I mentioned before, you're not supposed to find a unit in your shop if it's already 3-star, but there are 2 ways to break this rule. The first is to roll at a specific timing when your team teleports to an enemy board. If you press reroll at this exact timing, the game currently doesn't recognize that you have a 3-star unit and it's possible to find another copy in your shop. The other timing can be done regardless if you teleport to the enemy board or not. Once all of the fights are over, there is a very short transition phase. If you roll at this exact timing, then the game is again not able to realize that you own a 3-star unit and potentially offer you the unit you're looking for. You do have to be quite fast for the second strat because you barely have any time before the shop refreshes at the start of the next planning phase. What I just said probably sounded quite complicated, so let's go over an example where I found Katarina 4-star step by step. I start the game with a Fortune Kench chosen and an Annie in stage 2-1. I position myself as weak as possible and aim to lose streak the next 8 rounds. In stage 3-2, I pick up the Augment Heroic Grab Bag to reduce the amount of copies that I have to overroll later. In the stage 3 carousel, I take a Katarina to receive an additional copy that is not taken out of my own champion pool. In stage 3-5, I have 8 losses with 3 fortune, meaning I want to win my next fight. I push to level 7, look for a strong chosen, preferably Darius, and upgrade my board as much as possible and use up all of my items to make sure I win the next fight. I get the right cash out, which means I can start preparing for the future. In theory, I am allowed to finish my Darius 3-star because I will need the Katarina chosen at a much later time. My current goal is to mainly stabilize my board, collect 8 Katarinas, and maximize my economy. In stage 4-5, I find the last Katarina in my shop. I decide I want to overroll now, but if you have less duplicators, you might want to lock the shop and gather more gold for a larger roll down. I also change up my bench by placing multiple Katarinas on my board. This is to make sure I don't end up with a Katarina 3-star on my bench, since this would prevent additional copies from appearing. After my roll down, I currently have 12 copies and 11 duplicators. Finding a Katarina chosen is usually not a problem, so if we add another 3 copies, that puts me at 26 out of 27. A single copy is still missing. I use the transition rule at specific timings when I teleport to the enemy board and at the end of each fight, hoping to find the remaining Katarina. In this game, I ended up finding the last Katarina with the help of the carousel, but I also could have gotten a duplicator from 6 fortune, or I find the last copy by getting lucky with the transition rule. I sell my Darius chosen and roll until I find Katarina chosen. Now I finally get to use all of my duplicators and finish the game with a Katarina 4-star. Now you might ask yourself, is it worth it to go through this much trouble just to get a 4-star unit? Surely they must be incredibly broken and will instantly win you the game. The answer is sadly no. While 4-star units are stronger, the power increase from 3-star to 4-star is about the same as 2-star to 3-star. Aiming for 4-star units is less about winning your game and more about achieving something incredibly difficult either by yourself or with a group of friends. No matter what the result was in the end, you had a game worth remembering. I hope you learned something and see you next time.